Hey guys, A.D. Wheeler here from A.D. Wheeler Photography, and I thought I'd take a moment to put together a nice tutorial for you guys on how to install my texture pack and also a few tricks and tips on how to use it in Photoshop. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you very much for purchasing my texture pack, and I hope you find many hours of creative enjoyment out of its use. Okay, let's get started. First thing we need to do once we have this 3.6 gig file downloaded is we need to expand it onto our drive. So in Windows, we're going to just use the extract all feature here, and there's a few things we need to do before we load it up into Photoshop. So we're going to go ahead and extract this, and then we'll get to that part. Okay, awesome. So through the magic of film and video, we now have all of our textures. So there's one thing that we need to do before we use these textures, and it's real simple. But I did want to show you a few things. So included in this pack, we have all of the JPEG textures, which are these 5,000 pixel 300 DPI textures. And then I also included a PDF contact sheet, which you can actually open and print. And this will give you a quick reference. So you can print this out, and it gives you a quick reference to find these and know what they are. So that's included as well. And then there's also an ABR file that gives you brush shaders of every texture. And those are 5,000 pixel wide brushes. So that's kind of cool. And then I also included these PNG files. So all of the PNG files are transparent shader files as well. So that just gives you one other option that you can use to use these textures in your art. So one of the things we need to do before we get started is actually put all of these textures into their own folder. We're going to be using Russell Brown's Flypaper extension for Photoshop, and in order to use that, the textures do need to be in their own folder. So if you have a major folder already created with all of your textures in it, then you're going to want to put these in there. Or if you're just going to use these textures in this set, then you're going to want to put these in their own folder. So I'm just going to create a folder called JPEGs, okay? And we're going to select all of these and just drag them and drop them right into there. Okay, that's all you need to do. So to install the brushes, if you have Photoshop already installed and the brushes are associated with it, you can double click here and it will load up Photoshop and install them. I'm going to show you how to do it from within Photoshop. But before we get started with Photoshop, I found this great plugin extension from Russell Brown called Adobe Paper Textures Pro, and it was called Flypaper, I think, before, but it just is this great creative tool for using these textures. So I'm gonna assume that you have the Creative Cloud. If you don't, then you're going to want to do this manually, and I will include links in the descriptions on YouTube, so you can click those links and figure out how to do this manually. But I'm going to show you how to do it in Creative Cloud. So what we're going to do is we need to make sure that file sync is turned on with the Creative Cloud. So generally you do that through here and click Creative Cloud Files, and that'll bring up your folder. And it'll also, if you're not synced, it'll bring up a little thing here that tells you to sync those files. So once you have Creative Cloud running and you have the sync turned on, you can go ahead and just move that off to the side. And then you're going to want to surf over to the Adobe add-ins page. Now on there, you're going to the extensions page, you're going to want to make sure that you're signed in and do a search for Adobe Paper Textures Pro, and when you find it, you're going to want to click the install button. So when you do this, you'll click the install. It'll kind of sit there and it won't really do anything. It takes a few minutes. Well, what'll happen is you'll see a pop-up window appear where your Creative Cloud is going to install the file as an extension. So it takes just a few minutes to sync up, and there you go. You can see that it just was installed. And if you want to double check it just to make sure that it's installed, you can come down here and you can open up your extension manager and open that, and you can see that here that the paper is installed. Okay, so now that you have all that, you can go ahead and close all this stuff, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up Photoshop. It takes just a second to load. Okay, here we are in Photoshop, and as you can see, there is over here on the toolbar is the Adobe Paper Texture Pro icon. If it doesn't appear there, what you want to do is come up to Window and then down to Extensions, and then over here and click on the Adobe Paper Texture Pro entry in the menu, and that will bring up this nice little panel right here. So the first thing that we want to do is that we want to add our textures to this list. So what we need to do is come to this drop down right here and select a folder, and we're going to select the folder that we expanded all of those textures into. So that's over here and in there and there, and it was in the JPEGs. Okay, so that's where we expand everything. Select OK, and it's going to bring all of those in. Now it may ask you if you want to create thumbnails or anything like that, and you're going to go ahead and do that because that'll make this selection process a lot quicker. Okay, I like to set my selection mode, by the way, just to get started, to soft light. That just gives me a nice overlay and looks good for most photos. So I'm going to go ahead and load up a photo here that I've worked on before. This is from Monument Valley here, so we're going to go ahead and load that up. So the cool thing about this little extension that we have here, it's really awesome, is that it can be completely random, which is really neat, because if you're stuck and you can't really come up with something, you can just hit this button until you find something that you like. So you can actually throw a number like say 4 in here and then randomize the blend modes. And this is really neat. Watch this. And this is just going to go through and pick a random amount of textures. It's going to size them properly. It's going to set all of the layer blending modes and kind of put it together. So I mean, that's just off the cuff. Now you can go ahead and remove any textures that you may be too heavy for the photo, or you may not like, or you can go back in now and one by one you can adjust these. So a few things that are kind of cool. It already sets them into a nice layer mask too, which is really awesome. So we already know from using layer masks that when everything's white, it's going to show everything on the layer. So you can actually take this and invert this mask, adjustment and invert, or Control I or Command I, and then you can go ahead, and if you have your brush set to white here, you can go ahead and paint in on this photo. So I'm going to show you how we do that, and then we'll get to the brush part of this too. So I told you I'd show you how to install that. So we make a nice big brush here. It's nice and soft. I don't want it too big. There we go. All right, and watch, we can just paint in where we want that texture. So maybe we just want it down here. It just works out really well. Kind of cool, huh? All right. So that's just an idea, you know, it's nothing permanent. And I usually set this at a light opacity so that you're not overpainting. So we got that added in there. Let's try this. Now here's something a little different, and something I like to do. So you notice that in this photo we have a high contrast difference between the actual monument itself and the sky with the sunset going on. So if we want to change what's going on here with this mask, we can do this neat technique called Apply Image. So you select your mask itself, and then come up here to Image, and then down to Apply Image. Now watch what this does. Okay, so we've got a couple of things we can do here. We can apply it in a certain blending mode, so we can do like a soft light blending mode, or we can do the screen or lighten, or we can go back to multiply, which is usually the most successful. But watch, so we can look over here. We could see that the actual mask is not the background completely. Okay, so it's showing the other mask through here. So if we turn this other mask off before we do the apply image, so we turn that off, and all we have is just the background of this. When we do apply image, we can actually get that just to be just that image, and you can select, now so it's doing merge, so it's doing all of them, but we can do just the background. So when we do just the background, it does a perfect mask of the image that we're working on. So here you can see the white and the light are where the texture is coming out the most. So if we invert that, we actually create it in the darker areas, which I think is a little bit cooler effect for this. Okay. So now you can go ahead and edit on this actual mask. So say we don't want this texture up in the sky in certain areas. We can paint that black, and we can lighten that up. So many things you can do with these textures. It's absolutely amazing. So there's just that. So that's kind of a neat thing we can do as well. So once we have a couple of textures in here, saying we really aren't overly thrilled with these two, we don't like them. A simple thing we could do is actually create a new background. We can take all of these textures together and merge them, so we have them now in one file. We still have a protected background, so we have our original file. I usually make another copy of this because sometimes this paper texture program kind of does weird things. So we're going to go ahead and delete those two that we don't like. And now we can actually hit the random combination again. So you see how it took one away there. And that's what I usually worry about. So that's why I create two copies. So there you go. Now it's created this whole new thing, and we can go ahead and play with that and add and subtract and do whatever we want there. So that's just this little paper texture thing is really fun to play with. And you can also add in any texture you want manually. So we can just select a texture there. It puts it in the soft light mode, as you can see, and it puts it in a mask, so we can go ahead and paint it in wherever we want. And you could just keep adding textures that way. I mean, it just adds and adds to it. So build them up and play around and find what works for you. That's the fun part of this. So let's turn these off for now and go back to our base image. And I want to show you a little bit about the usage of the brushes. So we want to add our brushes in. So if we open up the brush dialog here and we come over to the little gear in the drop down, we can see that we want to load brushes. So here we are at the where I saved the original pack, and just open up your brush file, and that at the bottom here is going to add in 106 ginormous brushes for you to play with. So we're going to let that load up. Takes just a second. These are big files, so it takes a little time to create the thumbnails and whatnot to load in. And there we go. And as you can see down here at the bottom, boom, there we go. So we've got all of these neat shaders. Now the thing that's nice about these is that they're transparent, and they work on a shade principle. So you don't deal with any of the color at all, and you can add in your own colors. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So we're going to take this this texture. Let's see here. There's a neat one in here. I can always find the order. They're always fun to try to sort out here. But there is one texture in here that is right here. Okay, so this is like a wooden texture, and it kind of looks like pencil drawing. So we're going to use that. So go ahead and select that. I have black selected there and a brush, and we need to create a new layer that we can stamp on. So I created a new layer, and here you can see the brush. Now let me get this out of the way. You can see that the brush is not as big as the whole screen. It doesn't matter. You can just stamp it anywhere that you like. You can see there you go. There's the brush. And now what we can do is actually transform this, because these are high res. They'll transform nicely to your whole photo. So you can go ahead and pull that out. Cover, the other thing you could do too is maybe you only want to cover just this much. So you can, adjust these brushes however you want. I'm going to do the whole scene and then double click to stamp that. So here's the cool thing about this brush is you can obviously adjust all of the normal stuff that you could with any other file. So we can change this to soft light, it puts in a nice sketchy look there. Change it to overlay, it's a little darker. But here's the cool thing. So now that we have that in there, we can actually add an adjustment layer to that. So I'm going to add a hue and saturation, and I'm going to tie it to the layer using the Alt or Option key. And if I hold that down and hover the mouse right here in between the two, you'll get this little funky down arrow thing. If you click there, it'll attach that to the layer below it, and it won't affect any of the other layers. So that's kind of cool. It attaches directly to it. And now we can actually colorize this layer if we want to. So you'll see if there's any color that comes through here. I don't believe that it will until we change it a little bit. So there you go. Okay, so I'm just going to boost up the color there. So we just made some adjustments. Now if we go to the actual layer itself and we change it from an overlay to another blending mode, you're going to actually be able to see some changes go on here in the color. So scroll through some of these, and see, I think I actually changed it on the mask, so that doesn't work, right? There we go. Should be able to change to any color I want. There, it's changing the color a little bit. So you can see there's a bunch of different things that you could do just with a simple slider. Really adds to the creativity of the set, I think, in giving you those shader options. And you can do the same with the PNG files. So I can just, if you want to load in one of the PNG files, we can do that as well. So we'll go to the texture pack here, and then the PNG files. And let's just load a crazy PNG file here with some flowers on it. Okay, so that loads up also this nice little texture, and you can Control A for select all, and then Control C to copy, and then we can just go ahead and copy this right in on top of this as a new layer. So we have another layer that we can blend in as well, and this time using a PNG file. So the PNG files are shaded slightly darker and have a little bit more bold look to them than the brushes do. So it just gives you one more option of creativity, and that's what we're going for here, is just to really expand on your art and give you some different tools to play with and experiment with. So here you can really see the colors. There we go. And then you can adjust your opacity and all of that to get this exactly the way that you want it. So I hope that's been informative for you and a little bit of an insight on how to use my textures. I tried to keep it fairly short for you and not too long, and hope you'll look forward to getting my next pack. I'm already started working on them. So thanks a lot, folks. Appreciate it. Take care.